Death postponed, shot 5 times, but Keith Trinity Gardner found the strength to fought on. His nickname, taken from the 1970s western They Call Me Trinity, with movie stars Terence Hill and Bud Spencer, has stuck to him for eternity. However, when Keith Michael Douglas Gardner graduated from Kingston College in 1971 and returned to his alma mater right after to work as a lab technician in the biology department, little did he know that he would eventually become one of the most feared policemen in the 150 plus year of the Jamaica Constabulary Force.
I go and tell the people them say a whole time Trinity this, you know. Police that was feared by criminals all over Jamaica.
That fearsome tag carried its share of dangers with it though, for Gardner has been shot 5 times, most of them in combat with ruthless lawbreakers, and has escaped death on countless occasions. Now, the Assistant Commissioner of Police, who is on secondment to the University of the West Indies as its Director of Security, is basking in the twilight of his career.
He was the Assistant Commissioner of Police, retired now Attorney at Law, Director of Security for the University of the West Indies.
A career that will be captured in words with the publishing of his autobiography soon. That book will, among other things, chronicle the many gun battles and close shaves that he faced and note how he managed to survive to tell the tales. When Trinity joined the force in July 1972, his initial posting was St. Elizabeth, but he wanted to come back to Kingston, so he exchanged posting with a fellow named Rodriguez and went to Hunts Bay. It was September 1973, and at that time, Gardner immersed himself in some aggressive policing.
Trinity was a feared policeman all over Jamaica. When criminals hear the name Trinity, it's like, yeah, all right, no, we're not going to make him come in over here, you know, have to start on Christian.
It was not that I really wanted the Trinity image, but it came with the kind of policing at the time. A wanton disregard for your own safety, he said. Ironically, the first time he was shot, it was by another policeman. The first time I got shot was in 1974 along Bay Farm Road in the vicinity of Olympic Way. It was an accidental shooting. I was on patrol with Special Sergeant Blair attached to the Hunts Bay CIB. While we were driving, we saw a woman with one of those old Singer sewing machine oil cans. I said to her, "It's a long time my gun don't oil. Let me put some on it." Mr. Blair said he wanted to oil his too, so he cocked the fully loaded revolver, put a few drops in it. But not being experienced, he did not know that he should use the thumb and pull back the hammer and slowly squeeze the trigger and release it. He felt that the only way he could uncock the gun was to squeeze the trigger, so I was accidentally shot in the right leg, said Gardner. By April 1976, the Trinity image had taken hold.
Let me tell you something. First of all, in the 60s, and don't forget that in 1976 alone, twice as many policemen were killed than was the case last year. 13 policemen were killed. I was shot and seriously injured during that year.
Yes.
But the kind of criminals that you had at that time, Buta, you would have recalled Dennis Bart, Copper, Morrison, and them guys who had escaped from death row, right? And were really wreaking havoc. I've often said that Copper's mantra was that, boy, the only people in uniform that him like was doctors and nurses, right? No, honestly. But those were callous guys. But callousness wasn't the order of the day. I remember in those days I could line up 25 men, each holding out the other in the waist. And it was a state of emergency, right? Remember now. So we have special powers. And take them to station, process them. Those who were innocent, we let them go. And the hardheads will take in.
One morning around 11 o'clock, while coming from the halfway tree courthouse with another policeman, Gardner riding a 354 motorcycle, the most popular motorcycle around at the time, spotted a wanted man. We reached the intersection of Agley Park Road and Walton Park Road and saw a guy from Roden Crescent called Scatter, a wanted man who was riding another 354 bike. His pillion was a guy from Tivoli called Basking. So I decided to take up the chase at high speed down Walton Park Road.
There's something, Muta. Sometimes being at the stage that I am now, at my age and thing, and I look back at some of the things that I do, I say, boy, it's crazy, because sometimes I chasing some gunman, and believe me, without a single thought about what can happen to me.
As we were riding, the pillion just came from between his legs and fired a volley of shots. We couldn't have been more than 50 feet away. Before we knew it, we were literally thrown off the motorcycle because I was hit in the right leg again and the bullet entered from the interior of my leg, came through my buttocks and lodged in the other policeman. The force of that threw us off the bike, so we crashed and we were eventually taken to the KPH. Damage was done to my sciatic nerve, so I lost 25% ability in the right leg, said Gardner. Of the 5 times that he has been shot, 2 incidents remain firmly etched in his mind. One was in 1978 in the South St. Andrew community of Wilton Gardens, Rima. However, the Rima incident came on the heels of an equally horrific one in the volatile East Kingston community of Waurika Hills. In 1978, we held a member of the notorious Copper Gang in Augustown, where violence was flaring up. We had been sent to establish the Augustown police station at the time. It was just like a tent. I was assigned to Squad 103. The Commissioner Famous or Infamous Squad, which was set up on the anniversary of Copper's escape from prison.
I joined in 72 when I was sent to Commissioners of Standard Notorious Squad.
They had caught one of these gang members and we started a long trek through Long Mountain up to Waurika in search of the others. Because this guy was one of the send-outs, lookouts for the gang. We were a party of about 13 policemen, and when we were approaching a cave, we heard voices and believed that we had everything covered. So we decided to approach a cave. Before you knew it, there was a barrage of gunshots and it marked one of the longest ever shootouts. At the end of the day, all the fellas escaped, although it turned out that one of them had got shot. I was shot in 3 places, in the right leg again, and my face was fractured in multiple places, and my right hand. I was a sergeant at the time, and one of the policemen said, "Boy, Sarge, them guys coming back. We can't stay here." Armed with a 9mm pistol and a 303 rifle, 2 of the 13 policemen stayed with the injured and immobile Gardner, while the others trekked down to Mountain View Avenue and summoned assistance. All 3 were later airlifted out of the area. The closest that I have come to death occurred that same year, Gardner pointed out. I was still recovering from the Waurika Hills incident, and the first day back on duty, I went to Hunts Bay Police Station. A Constable Green and I had gone to Hunts Bay to look about some prisoners in custody. We were driving a marked police vehicle back through Trenchtown. By the time we reached 4th Street in the vicinity of an old train, I saw a guy walking with a gun in his hand. The guy looked in our direction and ran off. He ran into a 4-story building and we gave chase. I had not recovered fully from the effects of the bullet in the right leg, but we started kicking off doors from the ground floor. Of course, nobody saw anything.
I mean, Rima chasing a man and him go in a room and I start kick off every door. And by the time I reach the 3rd floor, it's like open fire.
Yeah.
And before I know it, 4 of my teeth then lick out and the man behind me get a shot in the belly and jump the 3-story floor down into the thing there. Down on the ground and thing I had to, race and hold on upon him, put him in the Jeep and drive, go Kingston Public where I pass out.
When we reached the 3rd floor and kicked off this door, I was staring down the barrel of a gun. The irony is that I could not kick off the door with my injured right foot, so I stood on the right foot, turned my back to the door, which was a stupid thing to do, and used the left foot to backheel the door. In turning around, it was a barrage of gunshots, one of which hit me in the right arm and another hit me in the right side of the face, completely taking out 4 teeth, almost completely severed the tongue, and coming out of the right side of the face. It was like being hit with a sledgehammer. Poor Green got shot in the gut. He panicked and jumped from the 3rd floor. I went downstairs, still under heavy gunfire, picked up Green, put him inside the car and barely made it to KPH where I had to undergo reconstructive surgery. Dr. Lynn, I cannot forget him, saved my life, and I still have a human face.
You know what is hurtful? Where I was shot, I was born only about 100 yards from there. You understand? So
Which
you
part
should
that?
call
Where
it
that?
the people.
Which part?
No, at 4th Street there, in Winterling Gardens.
Yeah.
I remember I born at 1630 Trenchtown.
Yeah.
The joke is that I was almost at the point of passing out at KPH when this guy came into the hospital wanting to take my gun from me. I was on the brink of unconsciousness and I had to grab the gun and point it in his face and he beat a hasty retreat, Gardner recalled.
I tell you something, Trinity. When me and you tell me hear the name Trinity, I'm afraid too. I mean, never did I do nothing.
An incident close to his house along Mona Road again threatened to cut his life on earth short. He had enrolled in a bachelor's degree program at the University of the West Indies, where he had begun to re-examine the issue of policing and was heading home from a class one night when his motor car developed mechanical problems. I was a student and started to de-emphasize the carrying of guns, but there was this particular night that I decided to carry my gun. I was armed to the teeth with lots of ammunition, about 4 or 5 spare magazines. This turned out to be fortunate for him, as while he was checking the vehicle, he was pounced on by a group of men who were on a robbery spree. I wear absolutely no jewelry now, not even a watch since then. At the time of the incident, I had a very expensive chain, bracelet, and a diamond ring. And when I stopped to check the vehicle, the next thing I saw was a Toyota Corolla coming up the road. And almost spontaneously, 4 men came out of the vehicle, all brandishing guns, and every gun was pointed at me. As one of them shouted, "Don't move." Intuitively, I went for my waist, and then a barrage of shots followed. In a jiffy, the night turned to day on Mona Road as gunfire lit up the sky. I fell on my back, and the men felt that I had gotten hit. The clip that I had was an extended magazine. It was like a movie, like Christmas, because all 4 were firing and I was firing back. My thing was death before dishonor. The closest of the 4 was almost over me. The left front door of my car was open, and it was through the door that I hit him, so they started to retreat. It turned out that I got shot in my right foot again. When you get shot, sometimes you don't know immediately. You don't feel the pain, even when your bone is broken. Because the time I got shot in Rima, I did not realize that I had gotten a shot in my right hand. It was long after I went to hospital that I realized, Gardner stated. The drama continued at the KPH as one of the wounded men turned up saying that he had been shot. Some people took me to the hospital, and one of the guys who was standing close to me during the shootout was wearing a black Bob Marley t-shirt with a big spliff emblazoned on it and short jeans pants. Came in after me. I saw the guy walk in dressed the same way. He came in with his mother and sister, and by that time a small group of policemen had come onto the scene. We went to him eventually and asked him how he got shot. He said that he was on Barbican Road and some men came up to him and asked him some questions, and because he never answered them right, they shot him. We asked him where he was when he was shot, and he said he was standing. By this time the doctor came up with the x-ray. There was no doubt in my mind that he was the person, but you were developing your case. When the doctor came and held up the x-ray, the trajectory of the bullet was upward, which indicates clearly that he was shot from a position below. I said to him, "You got shot on Mona Road. You and me were involved in a shootout." So we started interviewing him, and he started to tell me that he is from Grandspen Road and he was rolling with some guys, and he said if they knew I was a policeman, they wouldn't have given me a chance. So I said, "Oh, is a chance me get?" Gardner later found out 2 of the crooks had been on a bike and deliberately ran into the back of a woman's car on Washington Boulevard. She got out of the vehicle and they held her up at gunpoint and took her car. They started the robbery spree from Waterloo Road by holding up a security guard and relieving him of his gun, and headed up Mona Road and in Trinity's line of sight. The injured shooter, Gardner said, was firmly pegged in the courts based on the case Trinity built. It was possibly the easiest trial when he faced the court. The scientific evidence was incontrovertible. The bullet they took from him matched my gun exactly, so he pleaded guilty and he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. He left and went to England, where reports say that he was shot and killed over there, just like how Basking and the others were shot and killed, maybe not at my hand or other policemen's hands. The guy that shot me in Rima was shot and killed in a blazing gun battle with police officers, and that was a really blazing gun battle. I was in hospital when that happened. Most of them died overseas because they became fugitives, Gardner said.
I remember one of the times, we had a group of men along Olympic Way, and one man was at the head of the 25, and he said, "Listen, I don't know about you, but I'm going to make a dash for it as soon as we reach the corner, my old drive." Yeah. And the man one of them said, "Well, listen, you can't stay there, hold on, because it's a Trinity bullet, them take corner." So that was the legend.
It's like a missile. It's like your bullet is like a missile.
Yeah, so people really, and I never really had to use deadly force at the time, because the reputation assisted.
Yes,
So
definitely.
people hearing about this now not going to take any chance.
In another incident, he was almost shot by a man whom he had detained. One day in 1974, I was taking this guy to Huntsville police station, but never searched him properly. And when we reached the station, he broke away and I was in hot pursuit. I had no gun and the guy went down in his crotch and came up with a chrome 38 revolver, and right in front of the station he opened fire. I can't tell how close those bullets came to my head. Trinity said critics of his style of policing just don't understand what cops in Jamaica face on the job. It is ironic that at that time there were some adverse comments by certain groups within Jamaica about the number of people that we shot, and they would never understand the level and the extent to which you engage criminal elements at the time. They were quite ruthless and very organized, and Jamaica will never know and understand the depth of gratitude they owe to the Trinities across Jamaica. I cannot understand why after so many encounters I never gave up, and even at this stage I haven't given up. The adventures of the man called Trinity were never to cease, even while he traveled on missions overseas. Even in the African country of Namibia, where I had gone as a part of a peacekeeping squad between 1989 and 1990, I came under pressure. One day we were on the Angolan border monitoring the Southwest Africa police because they were accused of victimization and intimidation of the people. The area is so vast, we were on this patrol behind the Southwest African police in an armored tank, and before we knew it, about 50 rebels surrounded the patrol with anti-tank weapons. They crouched on hands and knees, ready to take out the patrol. It was a serious thing, but reggae music saved the day. Before that incident, I had come back to Jamaica to see my family and saw how much the people down there love reggae music, so I took back quite a few records and memorabilia. Through the tense moments when everything was at a standstill, I got out of the armored car and started giving out some Bob Marley buttons and tried to explain that we were there to monitor the election arrangements. Before you knew it, tension cooled. If one of the men had fired one of those anti-tank weapons, it would have been serious. For that move, we got commended by the United Nations, Gardner said. Day-to-day crime fighting was not the only thing that exposed Gardner to danger, as a stint as a chief bodyguard to former Prime Minister Edward Seaga and his tenure as head of the police traffic department were equally challenging.
You know that I was Seaga's bodyguard for 8.5 years, right?
Yeah.
Being bodyguard to Seaga was a transformation because I had to make the transition from frontline policing to become a close protection personnel, and that was an exciting period between 1980 and 1989. He said, when it came down to the security matter, Seaga was a man who listened to you. If you tell him what was expected of him in terms of being the principal, you tell him what side of the car to sit, he would, and he was curious about those things. When you talk about close protection, if the Caribbean wants to know what that was all about, just look at the era when Seaga was Prime Minister. Just look at how his security functioned. It was a professional thing because we were trained by the US State Department and we trained in executive driving techniques, etc. He also received specialist training in bomb disposal, traffic management, criminal investigation. I now have to be responsible at the repository of all of this knowledge. I can't pass the kind of knowledge and information that I have to just any policeman. Given what is happening, there is a need to convey some of this and pass on this information, but you have to know who you are passing it on to because you have to choose responsibly. He explained that guarding the Prime Minister meant softening the persona of Trinity, who had such a fearsome reputation then. Whatever you did, and it was controversial, it would impact negatively on the office of the Prime Minister. So by then, I had all but finished with that sort of thing. He said, Gardner has also been dogged by controversy through his career, being accused by both Jamaica Labour Party and People's National Party officials of improper conduct. Seaga complained to the police commissioner, Basil Robinson, that I was firing shots at citizens in Tivoli Gardens, something that was not true. He said another report to the police hierarchy that he had fired shots while former Prime Minister Michael Manley was touring a community turned out not to be so. He said, as at the time he was in bed suffering from bronchial pneumonia. The controversy nonetheless saw him being transferred from Kingston to Manchester. In 1990, after returning from Africa, Gardner went back to Halfway Tree as an officer, regaining his street creds and his notoriety, where he went to the traffic department. People then asked why I wasn't brandishing a gun. Gardner said, traffic is challenging because people who break the Road Traffic Act don't see themselves as criminal and resent being treated as such. So uniformed policemen engaged in traffic management are even more powerful than the crime fighters because you can stop almost anybody at any time within reason. It was exciting, he said.
A whole heap of people listen to you and say, we never know the Trinity is still alive.
Trinity alive and well. Yeah, and when I'm gone, long after I'm gone, the legend will remain.
All right, of course. I mean, I tell you, as a youth,
I'm always a fear man, and listen to me. I have not gone around and fracture relationship between decent people.
Yes.
My target was always dangerous and vicious gunmen. You know,
right,
people
sir.
might talk about, well, this one take this life and take that life. It's 5 different times I go near death.
where you get the word Trinity? Where you get the name Trinity from? Trinity at 3 different places one time.
No, both I know why already. No. That comes from the spaghetti movie. It points to my death. People used to say that I'm a marksman.
Yes,
I don't know how true that is, but it comes from that.
Yeah.
This video was made possible through the continued generosity of my patrons. To become a patron, follow the link in the description below. Thank you for watching the video. Drop a like and a comment down below and consider subscribing if you haven't done so as yet. Until next time, walk good.